Okay. So I know this is like the third time I've gone live today, but I sat down at my dining room table and I thought about, I don't know, it just popped in my head. So I started writing these down about different things that I've either heard or someone has said these things to me. And I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll discuss them, which to me, a lot of them, they're lie landmines. People, a lot of times, when they hear it, they believe it without even really thinking about it. And so I thought, I'll give my opinion, and I'll drop some truth bombs on it. So, lie number 1 that I hear a lot of, or has been said to me. Those of you that know me know that I consider myself a Christian. I am a Christian. I believe in God. I have since I was 7 years old. And I've been told before that, well, I can't really be a Christian because I don't go to church every Sunday. And in order to have a good, proper walk with the Lord, you have to go to church every Sunday. Now, I'm not saying that going to church every Sunday is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. What I'm saying is, someone saying the only way that you can be a good Christian is if you go to church every Sunday, that's a lie. That is not true. Because it is very possible for people to, worship the Lord in their own home and have a relationship with God that way. So, my husband and I, we don't go to church every Sunday. But the reason why we don't go to church every Sunday is because we really haven't found a church in our area that really meets our needs, really meets what we're looking for in a church. And we can't afford to travel all the way to Bangor or Millinocket every Sunday to go to church. So, to me, that's lie landmine number 1. Number 2, I've heard people say to me that having a tattoo is a sin. And if you're a Christian, then you shouldn't have a tattoo. Well, I have a tattoo. I do. I have a tattoo on my lower back near my hip of a rose with flames on it, or around it. To me, that tattoo has meaning to me because growing up, that's oftentimes how I felt. I felt like a rose, which is a girl, who had a lot of things kind of troubling her and tormenting her. Personal problems, baggage, whatever. So I felt like a rose with flames. And people have said, that I've read on Facebook, people say that people with tattoos, well, they're going to hell. They can't be saved. Well, that's not true either. That is not in any way, shape, or form the truth. Because nowhere in the Bible does it say that if you have a tattoo, you don't get to go to heaven. And I know a couple preachers, pastors, who actually have tattoos that they got when they were younger, and now they're pastors, and they still have their tattoos. Number 3 is one that kind of really hits home for me right now. And for the first time ever, I'm going to kind of go in depth and personal into why. And number 3 is, you can't be angry at God. That's not godly. That's ungodly. I've experienced anger towards God before in the past because of different things that have happened in my life. And most recently, there's anger and frustration because my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for the last 4 years, going on 5 years, and it isn't working. We've been unable to conceive And I go to the doctor and I get tested, and I'm told everything's fine on my part. My husband hasn't been tested yet, but as far as he knows, everything's fine with him too. And then everyone around me that I know is getting pregnant and having babies. And it's hard and it's frustrating. So to say that you have no right to be angry at God, no, it isn't God's fault. But you're human. You're gonna feel emotions, and when you have stressful and just stuff like that going on in your life, you're gonna tend to feel some emotions. And one of those emotions is anger. And sometimes you feel it towards God. That doesn't mean that you don't love God. It's just like if I get angry with my husband, it doesn't mean I don't love him. If I get angry with my sister, it doesn't mean I don't love her. It just means I'm frustrated and I'm upset. Number 4. And this one kind of hits home for me too. If you are gay, lesbian, or transgender, you need God to fix you, because you are going to hell for your sins. That really hits me in a spot that isn't always good. Because, again, nowhere in the Bible does it say that God came to the earth and sent his only son to die on the cross for just straight people. Nowhere in there does it say that Jesus died for just straight people. Jesus died for every man and woman. Whether your preference is the same sex or opposite sex, or whether you identify as a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. God, to him that doesn't matter. He loves you regardless. Does the Bible say that being a lesbian or a gay or transgender goes against God's word? Yes, it does. It does, because when God created the earth, he did create Adam and he created Eve. But again, Jesus came to this earth to die for everybody. He didn't just come to die for straight people or just white people or African Americans or Native Americans. He died for everybody, not just one type of person. Number 5. You are depressed. You must be feeling sorry for yourself, or you like having attention on yourself. I've actually had people say that to me before when it comes to my depression. That, you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. When I'm depressed, it's not because I'm feeling sorry for myself. Do I feel miserable? Do I feel confused and discombobulated? Yes, I do, because when I'm depressed, I don't know what to do with myself. It's like I just sit there and I have no idea what to do. I just know that I don't feel like myself, and I don't feel like being around anybody. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be by myself. And that's not feeling sorry for myself, because I'm very blessed. I feel very blessed. And as far as wanting attention, if I wanted attention, I would be out kind of expressing my depression and telling everybody about it. But for me personally, when I'm depressed, I don't do that, because I don't really want to be around people when I'm depressed. So to me, I don't feel like people who struggle with depression are attention seekers. I don't think that at all. Okay. Number 6. I'm trying to hurry up and get through these because I have to watch Cole tonight, so I'm trying to hurry up and get through this. But number 6, this one really kind of hits like, really kind of hits home for me. And I have actually had people say this to me. Again, most of these are things that people have actually said to me. But it's not something that I necessarily go around telling everybody because it's not my fault, but it's not something that I'm proud of. I don't want everyone knowing, which now they are, but I was abused as a child. My birth parents did not take care of me. And they didn't treat me like they should have. And I've had someone say to me before, well, you were abused in the past when you were a kid, so it's probably best if you don't have any kids because you don't want to repeat the same pattern. That is hurtful. It is very hurtful for anyone who's ever endured abuse as a child or even as an adult. But for me, I would say, especially as a child, because when you're a kid, you don't get any say in the situation. You don't get to say, well, I don't want to be in this situation, so I'm just going to leave. You don't have a choice. So for me, in my opinion, now that I'm an adult, yeah, I have pain from the past. I have some baggage from the past. And I have memories that aren't fun to think about or talk about. But one thing that my sisters and I, growing up, had said was that no matter what, we were going to break the chain. That we were going to break the chain that basically had captivated our birth family for really a few generations. And myself, personally, I promised that I was never going to be like that. And even though I'm not perfect, I have a temper, but my temper it's never physical. It's just, I get frustrated, But to be told that because you were abused as a child, you might abuse your children, that is a flat out lie. That being abused as a child doesn't mean one iota. It doesn't mean a thing. Because whatever happened to you in your past, you get to choose a different path. You can either choose to just repeat what you experienced as a child, or you can choose to say, no, I'm going to be different because I don't want to be that kind of person. And for myself and both of my sisters, that I had lived with as a child, all three of us said, no, we are going to be different. We are not going to, do drugs. We're not going to become alcoholics. We're going to stay away from that stuff, and we're definitely not going to treat our children the way that we were treated as kids. We're going to give our kids love and protection. So that is a flat-out lie, because just because you were abused as a kid doesn't mean that you're going to grow up to be an abuser. That is an excuse that a lot of people use. Well, this happened to me when I was a kid, so that's why I'm like that. No, that is baloney. Because, like I said, I was abused in pretty much every way imaginable. And I am not like that. In no way, shape, or form would I ever hurt a child in the way that I was hurt as a child. Next one, number 7. And this necessarily isn't really anything that was flat out said to me. It was more kind of a roundabout thing that was said, whether it be on Facebook or to me or whatever. But you aren't working right now. Well, then that must mean that you're lazy. And I know that a lot of people have made this comment to people who don't work. Oh, well, you're not working, so you must be lazy. Well, myself personally, I'm not working right now. I'm a housewife. Those who know me best and are in my everyday life, they know that I have been working to try to get a job. I got fired, I want to say 3 years ago for a really silly reason, but it basically smudged my name, dragged my name through the mud. I was basically called a thief, or labeled as one, and getting a job in the town that I'm living in has been very difficult. And it's hard to get a job really anywhere else because we don't really have that much money. So to say that because someone's not working, that must mean that they're lazy, that is very untrue statement. Because I got my first job when I was 18 years old. I worked in the grocery store, and since then I've had several jobs. And I even took a job working on a dairy farm, and if anyone who has ever worked on a dairy farm knows that working on a dairy farm is not easy work, especially not when you're only like 5 feet tall and you got cows that are taller than you. It's very, very, very hard work. A year ago or so, I worked on another farm here in town. It was a vegetable farm. But still, that's pretty hard work. You're picking strawberries for, 6-7 hours straight underneath the hot sun on your knees. Your back gets kinked up, your knees get all kinked up, and, your body hurts by the end of it. But I took the job because we needed work. So, again, this is just, I'm talking about myself personally, obviously. But to say that because someone's not working, it must mean that they're lazy, that's not true. Because I don't think that I'm lazy, and I'm not working right now. And it's not that I don't want to work, it's just that it's hard to find a job. And in all fairness, being a housewife is work enough in itself. Number 8, and this is another thing that I have had said to me, and actually something similar was said to a friend of mine, that you have lots of animals and books, so you must be a hoarder. By no means am I a hoarder. That is kind of humorous, but first of all, I do have a lot of animals. We did just have to rehome 2 of our bunnies because we couldn't afford to take care of them. But we have a bunny, a ferret, and 2 dogs. My husband and I, we love animals. We are huge animal lovers. And for me personally, coming from a background, a past of abuse, my heart, goes out to animals who are mistreated and don't have a loving home. So if I know of any animal that is in need of a loving home, yes, we do bring them home because we want them to experience love and feel safe. And as far as my books go, everybody has a hobby. Everybody collects stuff. They collect something, whether it be stamps, whether it be spoons, whether it be salt and pepper shakers. My thing is I love books. I have since I was a little girl. From what I was told from my sister Jessica, I used to read books when I was 6 years old, 5, 6 years old. I'd be sitting there reading books because I love books. And that love hasn't changed. To me, a book, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, a book to me, I guess the only way to explain it would be, if anyone has ever seen the movie Love Comes Softly, in there, Marty describes books probably the best way that anyone can describe a book. A book is a way to escape. In the pages of a book, you could be whatever you want. You could be a pirate, you could be a princess, you could go on crazy, wacky adventures and still be in the safety of your home. And for me, I don't have the financial means to go on adventures, to go explore the world or anything like that. So for me, my books, that's what it does for me. I read a book and I get to escape for a moment. But that doesn't mean that I'm a hoarder. I can understand why some people do become hoarders. I probably was kind of on the line maybe like 6-7 years ago of maybe dangerously becoming a hoarder. But when you have lived your life basically out of a suitcase your whole life, and you've moved around so many times that you don't always get to keep the things that you accumulate because you're always moving. As a child, there were things from my birth home that I didn't get to take with me when I went into foster care. At some of the foster homes, there was stuff from my foster homes that I didn't get to take with me because I had to move. Even as an adult, there were, at one point, because I've even moved around quite a bit as an adult, but at one point I had stored some stuff at the Christian school that I had graduated from. And because at the time I was told that was okay. And then we got a new pastor, and basically my stuff went missing. I think I was living up north at the time, and I was getting ready to move back into my parents' house, and I had maybe 15 boxes of stuff that had been given to me, things from my childhood, and they all disappeared. They had turned the school into like a thrift shop type thing. And I was told nobody knew what happened to my boxes, but I went in there one time and I actually saw some plates that looked very familiar to some that I had, but that's besides the point. My point is, I can understand why someone might become a hoarder. When you have lived a life similar to mine, and you haven't got to keep a lot of stuff, and you're constantly having stuff taken from you, it's easy to become a hoarder and just hoard everything. Probably maybe 4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, I started kind of like moving away from that. Like, I do get rid of stuff. If I don't need it, I get rid of it. For instance, a couple months ago, my husband bought me a Ninja blender and food processor because the current one that I had wasn't really working properly. And so I got rid of the one I had because I got a new one. But the point is, just because somebody has a lot of books or they have a lot of animals or whatever, it doesn't mean that they are a hoarder. If you really want to know the definition of a hoarder, you need to Google it, because a hoarder is somebody who has so much stuff that they can't even live properly because they have so much stuff. Number 9. You never have any money and you struggle to pay your bills. Well, you must be spending it on stuff that you don't need. Again, this is something that wasn't really necessarily worded that way, but it was something kind of in a roundabout way that was said. My husband and I don't really do anything. We don't really go anywhere. We did in the past when we had more money and were more financially able to. We don't anymore. Like, honestly, the most places that we go is we might go to my best friend's house or my husband's parents, or occasionally my mother's. You'll have to excuse me, my dog is barking and I don't know why. But anyways, yeah, I just lost my train of thought here. What was I saying? Just a second. I'm sorry. My dog distracted me. Oh. So, we don't really go anywhere. We don't really buy anything for ourselves. Honestly, the majority of our money, it goes into taking care of our animals and paying for our bills and buying groceries and gas. That's it. That's where our money goes. And yes, my sister, who is living with us, she does help us out with her paycheck because it's pretty much impossible to pay everything on just my husband's check alone. And my sister does live here, and it's only fair that she contribute. So anyways, she does help out with that. No, we don't forcibly take her money or anything. She voluntarily helps us. But my point is, I think the most that I ever splurge on myself, I buy myself, like, something from the dollar store. Just, like, recently, I had bought myself 2 things of lipstick from the store, and I spent $2. I did buy myself roughly $60 worth of makeup. I only ended up paying $40 because I used my discount card. But I'm babysitting tonight, and I'm making roughly $20. So that's going to replace $20 that I spent. So really, I got $60 worth of makeup for $20. That is probably the most that I have really ever splurged on myself, besides 4 years ago when my husband and myself and my sister Amanda all went to a Luke Bryan concert. I think that's probably the most money that we've ever spent on ourselves. And that was years ago. We don't do that anymore. So if somebody appears to not have any money, it's not necessarily because they're spending it on stuff they don't need. It's probably because they're spending it on bills. And just today's economy makes it hard to have extra money to save or whatever. Number 10. This is kind of a 2-part lie. And it makes it hard. It's a no-win situation. I've heard people say, when I tell them that I'm a Christian, "Oh, well, you're a Christian, so you must be judgmental." No, I'm not judgmental. I'm actually a pretty laid-back Christian. If we get into the conversation about the Bible, I will share my honest opinion and of what I understand the Bible says, but I'm not going to shove it down your throat. I'm not going to beat you over the head with the Bible, because that's just not what I think that's not how I believe. That's not how I am. The second part of that lie is on the other side of it, I've also had people say, when I tell them that I support the LGBT community, that, well, then I can't really be a Christian if I support that. Why can't I? Why can't I be a Christian and still support someone's right to be who they want to be? Again, it goes back to the Bible does not say that Jesus only loves straight people. It said Jesus loves everybody. He died for everyone. So, and also in the Bible, Christians are told to have a Christ-like love. That doesn't mean that you condone the sin or you say it's okay for people to sin, but that you still love them. And that's what I mean. If the conversation were to come up and someone asked me, "Hey, what does the Bible say about this?" Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, "Well, I can't be around you because of how you choose to live your life." I'm not that way. I think that every person on the face of this earth has every right to be happy. They have every right to choose for themselves what is best in their lives. It's not my job to tell anybody else how to live their life. Which brings me to number 11, which most recently was said to me, which is kind of humorous. But you constantly offer your advice, so that makes you controlling. I had somebody recently tell me that I try to control everybody's family. I have no interest in whatever the heck you guys do with your family. Do I offer advice to my best friend when her children are not listening? I do. Do I offer to step in and help her with her children when her children are not listening? I do. When I watch their children, do I put them in a timeout? Do I sometimes tap their hand? Yes, I do, because they're in my care. I am responsible for them, and if they're doing something that I've asked them not to do, they're going to get a consequence. It's called teaching children to be responsible adults. But if my best friend is handling her own kids, or she decides to do something, for the most part, I don't say anything. And so for me, offering advice to my friends or to other people does not mean that I'm trying to control you or your family, because I really have no interest whatsoever in what you and your family do. And last point, or last lie that I've been told, that I've actually had said to me, and this was said to me almost 5 years ago when I made the decision to move in with Stanley. You lived with someone, or you were intimate with them before marriage. You need to get your salvation right with God, or you aren't really saved and are on your way to hell. I actually had somebody say that to me. It was actually 3 different people who made 3 separate comments to me, basically telling me that because I chose to move in with Stanley, who at the time was my boyfriend, that I needed to get my salvation right with God, and that I was on my way to hell because I chose to disobey God's commandment about staying pure before marriage. And I was also told that I must not really be a Christian and I must not really be saved because I chose to live with Stanley before I married him. Stan and I had talked about this quite a bit before I made the decision to move in. He had given me the offer. He had offered for me to move in with him. And there were several different reasons. At the time, my mother and I were not getting along. We were fighting a lot, and it was very hard to just get along with her. And not that I was the easiest person to get along with, but we were fighting a lot. Second thing was a conversation that Stan and I had, and this is probably the first time I am making this public, conversation that Stanley and I had when we first started talking. I asked him right off the bat, what is your intention? What do you want out of this? And he said that he just wanted to be friends, but that he wanted it to turn into something more. That he wanted us to date, and that someday he was going to marry me. And so I said, okay. To me, I believed him. I trusted that he was telling me the truth, that someday down the road, he and I were going to be married. And Stan was a very respectful man. He didn't pressure he didn't pressure me into anything. So I made the decision to move in with him, because at that point in my life, that's what was best. So I did. I moved in with him. And right off the bat, everyone assumed that because I was living with him and that I was sharing his bed with him, that must mean that we were being intimate. And again, this is the first time that I've made this public because I'm a pretty private person, but oh gosh, we lived together for, I don't know, I want to say maybe 3, maybe 4 months before we were intimate. And when we did decide to become intimate, we had both in our minds, basically in our minds, we were already married. No, legally we didn't have a piece of paper that said that we were married, but in our hearts, we felt we were married and we loved each other that way. And we knew that someday we were going to get married. So in my mind, I saved myself for marriage. I saved myself for the man that I was going to marry. And anyways, I mean, it wasn't that much longer after that, and Stan and I did get married. But regardless, to tell somebody that they need to get their salvation right with the Lord because they chose to move in with their boyfriend or their fiance or whatever, it's not your place to tell somebody that. You are not God. You were not the judge and the jury. You were another sinful human being who is no better than the person who decided to move in with their boyfriend or their fiance before they got married. So, it was during that period, I had a lot of people, a lot of Christians, making very mean and harsh comments to me. And after having gone through that experience, I understand why people get turned off from going to church. Because nobody wants to be beat over the head with the Bible. And especially for me, like, I knew what the Bible said. I already knew. And I made my decision. Bible also says that people have a free will. And what the decision that I made, that was between God and myself. It wasn't between, me and the pastor of my parents' church, or people who went to my parents' church, or other Christians that I knew. No. So, point being, if you have had anybody say any of those to you in your life, it's a lie. It's not true. Well, I mean, I guess there could be some truth to it, but for the most part, a lot of those, they're not true. They're lies. And especially that last one. Like, I'm telling you, to anyone out there, you need to make decisions for you based on what is best for your life. And you have a free will. You need to decide, okay, you have a conscience, you have a free will, and you need to decide, do I feel okay doing this? Do I feel like I shouldn't do this? And if you feel like you shouldn't do it, then don't do it. If you personally are at peace with whatever decision you made, then you do it. It's your life, and you need to make decisions based upon what is best for you. And that's just my opinion. And other people out there who just seem to think that they need to give everyone else their 2 cents and beat them over the head with the Bible or whatever, like, you need to stop doing that. Because, first of all, you're not going to win anybody over by beating them over the head with the Bible. Second, again, you're not going to make any fans, because when you do that and you judge someone and you criticize them and you beat them over the head, it just turns them off. They don't want to be around you. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want anything. And that's me. That's speaking from personal experience. Like I said, when that happened to me and those comments were made to me, it made me not want to go to church anymore. I mean, why do I want to go to church with people who think such awful things about me? That because I stumble and I fall and I sin, or I make a decision they don't agree with, that means that I'm going to hell and I can't really be saved, and I need to get my salvation right with the Lord. It's just not okay. People think before you speak. Anyways, those are my thoughts on those 12 lies or comments that have been made to me in my life. Feel free to put your 2 cents out there. I just ask that you be respectful and kind and considerate, and that you're not mean and harsh to other people. I probably am going to make this more into like a series, like different things that have been said that I feel aren't true, and I'm going to give my opinion on them. And I actually have I created a page. It's called Life is Simplicity, and I'm eventually going to switch over to doing videos on there. But basically, Life is Simplicity, to me, it means that life doesn't have to be hard. Life can be simple. Life can be easy. It can be easily understood if you just allow it to be. So anyways, if you would please look that up and give it a like, that would be wonderful. Maybe share it. Maybe share this video. I'm going to be doing a lot more of like these video things. I guess they call it vlogging. I don't know. But I guess I'm becoming a vlogger. But anyways, I would appreciate a like with this video, and I'd love for you guys to share it. And if you can, just swing over to my page, Life is Simplicity, and give it a like and maybe a share. That'd be wonderful. You guys have a good evening.